Okay, so that brings us back to the third mode that we needed. So that was my bad. Let's put it back to no here so that we have 3 states again. I think it's the only way we can make it work. All right, so let's see here. Once we do this, draw mode is false, okay? But the first time while we are dragging this, draw mode is going to be equal to true. And we have to set it up in a way that this should only change the draw mode if it's equal to no. So only the first time. All right, so let's try this again. Fingers crossed this time that things will work. And let me click and drag. Now it's not even clicking and dragging at all. Okay, so draw mode is no, right? So if it's no, then it goes directly to, does it go here? So let's see what's happening. So let's do a console.log and just say here. So we know when it actually goes into that state. So I'm going to refresh and click load image. Let's load that and let me click, and it doesn't seem to work at all in the first place. Okay, so it's not even going here. Draw mode should start as no, okay, and if draw mode is equal to no, and then if not draw mode, okay, so here I have to be very specific. I think that's why, because not draw mode can also be no, so I have to be very specific that it should be equal to false, like that. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's load. Okay, so it's working now, and as you can see, it works just fine. When I increase or decrease the size of the box, it still works as intended. And then if I let go and click in there and start dragging, that works as well. Okay, this is awesomeness now. Things are working as they should, which is awesome. I love that. Alright, so now what we need is to be able to cut this piece and bring it on the side over here. So when we select like this, we want to move this piece into there. So we can only do that if we grab some data from here, from within this container. Whatever data is here, we grab it and put it there. So let's add a few buttons here that will say save selected area, for example. And also I need to increase the size of this thing altogether. So I'm going to go up here, and where there's a load image here, let's add another button. This time I'm just going to use an actual button. Let's see how that fares. Or let me leave it as a div so that there's uniformity. So this one I'm going to say save selected. Okay, like that. Okay, so there's a button there, and on click, actually this button should not be within the label, otherwise it will open the input. So let's move it away from the label, like so. Okay, did I add some margin? I didn't. So let's add a little margin around each button, maybe 2 pixels, like that. Okay, so save selected area. So on click, that's what we should run, the function called save selected. Okay, like that. Great. So let's create that function down here. So we're going to say function save. Actually, let's use camel case, like that. Okay, so which means we have to change the name here as well. Camel case, capitalized, save selected. Okay, great. So we need a variable that will save selections. So we're going to call this one selections. I'm going to capitalize it like this. just to show how important it is. So this will be, actually let's make it an array like so. So inside here we're going to put objects. So it's an array of objects. So each object is whatever box we generated at that time. Now remember that every generated box will be inside temp box. So all we need to do is add temp box to this list of selections, and then it can be made permanent. Okay, so let's do that. So what I'm going to do here is serve selection. I'm going to say selections, and I want to append to the selection. So I'm going to do selections.length like that. Selections.length is equal to, and then whatever temp box is at that time. So I'm adding to it, and once I do that, I have to do a redraw. Let's do a redraw. Excuse me. So let's go back here and see what's going on. So if I click and load an image, and then click and drag, okay, that's great. Move it around, and then I say save selection. Things don't seem to have worked. Let's see. There's an error in our console. So it says save selected is not defined. So usually it means the function is not created, but we can see the function here. So what's going on? Let me see. Right. So there's a missing C over here. All right. So it was right. Let me refresh. Let's click load. Click there, and then save selected. So that disappeared. Okay. And now I can click and drag somewhere else, but we don't know really what happened here. Save selected, that disappeared, which it should. But what we want to do now is when we redraw, we have to check any selections that we made earlier, which are saved in here. We must display them. So let me go over here on the redraw function. So the redraw function is here. So there's an image, we do all of this, and then we draw our image, and then here we have to redraw all rectangles or all boxes. That's what we're just gonna call them, boxes at this point. So I'm going to do a for loop here and loop through selections. There we go. So selections like that. And every loop, every time I go through the loop, I'm going to look, wait a minute. How are we drawing the boxes? So instead of a stroke, this time we're going to use a, let's see here. So we're going to use a field version. So field rect. And what I'm going to do is say context ctx dot field style, which is like the color we're going to use. We're going to put white like so. So with white, then we fill the rectangle with the variables inside the selection. So here temp box will change to selection I, selections I.x.y.width.height, because those are the values that are stored in there. Okay, so let's see that in action. So I'm going to load the image once more. There we go. And click and drag. And this time when I say save selection, you see it leaves a box over there that's white. And if I click and drag, this time things are not going very well, because now everything has changed to a white box. And that's not what I want at all. So the redraw here is doing something weird. Okay, So what I need to know here is, are there any items, or what items are there first of all in the selection? Console.log selections, like so, right? So I want to see how many items are in there and if any. So we're going to go to the inspector. Let me load that image. Click and drag, everything seems fine. Save selection, and now there's what's happening. Let me remove that. Let me click and drag. Let's see what's going on. So there's an array with one item. Okay, so that seems reasonable. That seems normal. So what really is going on? So read row function. Let me see here. So we draw the image and we draw all boxes. And what else are we doing here? There's this part where the mouse is moving and it redraws every time, which is okay. And it draws a new thing that is saved in the temp. And stroke rect, quite right. Stroke style gray. Okay, so this is weird. Where is this issue coming from? Okay, for now I'm gonna remove this part that does the fill rect. I'm just gonna leave the fill style. Want to see if that has an effect. So I'm gonna say save selection and click and drag. Okay, so it doesn't affect anything. So which means here we are having trouble here, right there. So selection, save selected, that saves. Okay. And then redraw. Okay. Right here. Okay, wait a second. So as this happens as well, I'm going to use a stroke after this so that we have an outline still and do the same thing again. Okay, so let's refresh. I'm gonna load this image once again, click and drag and save that. That works. I have the outline and the white box. But when I click and drag, I don't know why that one disappears. That should not be the case. Okay, so what is going on here? Am I missing something? Selections I, X, and Y as we loop through them. Something wrong here. Something wrong. Okay. The problem is these guys are now following this process here, which should not be the case. So draw mode is here and doing all of this, which is great. Maybe I should empty temp box. I think maybe that's where the problem is coming from. So let me copy that. In fact, I think, let's see here, redraw. And let's do this. Temp box should be equal to an empty, like that. We should reset everything once we do this. What else? Draw mode should be equal to null. Actually, it already be equal to null, so that's fine. What else? Mouse down, blah blah blah. Maybe that's the only thing we needed to do. Let's see. There we go. Let's see, redraw, temp. Okay, let me try that. Let's refresh, load image. Something I'm missing here, save selected. Okay, so now things are working. So that was the issue there. So as you can see, these are staying permanent there as I'm adding new items here, which is great. So we're getting there slowly. I'll move this around and hit save. Okay, so the only thing remaining now is to have these guys listed the images that we are hiding over here. So as you can see, we're not really destroying the image in anywhere, we're just hiding those pixels, and those hidden pixels should come as images over on this side. So let's do that in the next video.